So, ladies and gentlemen, I went to Treyarch the other day and I played Black Ops 6. And so in this video, I want to talk to you about everything you'll need to know about the game. So I did get to play it for just a bit, and I want to give you guys a good explanation on what to expect when Black Ops 6 releases in October, because we got a lot to unpack. So the first thing that we found out was that Treyarch really wanted to give this game an identity. That's great news for me, because that's something I feel like, the past couple of titles have been missing to some extent, and they've really gone out of their way to make sure that Black Ops 6 has an identity and feels like a Black Ops game, which was great news. And the other good news is, on day one, Black Ops 6 is coming with a lot of content. There's going to be, obviously, a full-on campaign, and we'll talk about that more in just a second. But with multiplayer, we're getting 12 brand new 6v6 maps alongside some strike maps, and then Zombies is coming back with 2 round-based maps, and we'll talk about these in more detail in just a second. Now, it's important to know that the Black Ops 6 campaign is being developed by Treyarch and also Raven Software, who also did the Cold War campaign. So if you enjoyed that one, then I would expect something to be very similar here and, innovating on what they did in that prior game. So let's talk about the campaign a little bit. Where does this story take place? This is canon in the Black Ops universe, and this takes place just shortly after the 1989 events of the Black Ops 2 campaign. So if you remember in that one, you're basically cutting back and forth between the past and the distant future, and so this campaign is going to take place very shortly after, which means that Frank Woods will be in the game. We've got some brand new characters as well. Adler will also be making a return, as well as some new characters like Troy Marshall and Jane Harrow. So these are brand new to this particular storyline, and it's also going to be some connective tissue to the rest of the Black Ops timeline and lore. So obviously, all of the events of this campaign will be taking place in 1991. There's also going to be a mix of what you might think of MW3's open combat missions, although they're a little bit different here. They're more Treyarchified, and they're not called open combat levels either, and they have scripted moments in them, but they feel a little bit more open and sandboxy, so we'll see how those go. I don't know how many, proportionally speaking, there are to, regular traditional Call of Duty missions, but also, as it being a Treyarch and Raven game, they're very much focusing in on good missions from Cold War, like the KGB one, where you sort of have a bunch of different ways you can go about solving that level, and it seems like they're really leaning into that for this one. We saw 2 campaign missions, and I was honestly very impressed with what I saw, and if that's just a small teaser for what the entire package of the game is going to be, then I'm pretty damn excited. So let's move over a little bit and talk a bit about multiplayer. So there's a couple of big changes that are coming to this year's MP that have never been featured in a Call of Duty game before. Primarily, the biggest new change that was made was a complete overhaul of the movement system, and now introducing omnimovement. And so this allows the player to run, sprint, and dive in any direction. And I know that sounds a little bit weird, and honestly, I won't lie, I was a bit skeptical when they were explaining how the system worked, but now that I've gotten hands-on with it, and as somebody who really likes good, fluid, fast movement in video games, I can honestly tell you omnimovement is an absolute W. I mean, it's going to be one of those things that is going to take some time to get used to, but completely opens up all other aspects of the game, and I think makes for some really interesting interactions. I was having a lot of fun using omnimovement, and I'm looking forward to experimenting with it more. The thing is, though, even though it's a fundamentally different movement system, somehow it still really feels like Call of Duty. Do you remember in Black Ops 3 when they introduced the jetpack and wall running mechanics, and everybody's like, oh my god, this is going to ruin COD's movement? But now we look back at it retrospectively, and Black Ops 3 had some of the greatest movement ever, really with that guns up mentality. It's a similar thing here. That's kind of the vibe that I got, was it's a new movement system, but somehow they still managed to make it feel patently Call of Duty. There's other games out there that have tried to do omni movement, and you can look at a couple of examples, but I promise you nothing is quite like Treyarch's omni movement. Just trust me and wait till you get your hands on it, and you'll kind of see what I'm talking about. But basically, in a nutshell, omni movement allows you to move in any direction. Intention completely translates over to action. You can sprint from left to right, you can dive backwards, you can, even when you're prone, you have different animations. Trust me, it's very fluid, and I very much enjoyed it. Probably one of the best aspects to this game. Another 2 big things that are coming back that I am delighted to tell you about. Number 1 is the classic prestige system for multiplayer. It's going to be very similar to how it worked before, where you have 55 military ranks, then you go into prestige 1, and you get a lot of stuff relocked. Now, I'm not totally sure what all gets locked and what stays unlocked when you prestige. I imagine it'll be something similar to like Black Ops 4's prestige system, but once you prestige all of the way, there is a climb to level 1000 at Prestige Master, so that's very exciting. So it's kind of the best of both worlds between people who like classic prestige and also people who want to grind like seasonal ranks in a way, but there's no seasonal cap or anything like that. It's just straight up prestiging, and I think that's amazing. So very excited for that. Also, the return of theater mode is here. I didn't think they would ever do it again. I had a lot of reasons to believe that theater mode was dead in the water forever, but the Mad Lads are doing it. It will be in multiplayer, and I imagine theater mode will also be present in zombies as well. And that's a perfect way to segue into zombies as well. I imagine you who watch me a lot or watch this channel a lot probably are here because of zombies, and that's the thing you are primarily interested in. Well, great news that I could ever tell you, round-based zombies is back, and I mean round-based zombies is back. So we have 2 maps coming on launch. We have a map called Liberty Falls that takes place in West Virginia, and then we have a map called Terminus, and this is actually the island which Dr. Peck goes to at the end of the Forsaken cutscene. And speaking of which, the reason why we're going to this island is because everyone who was detained at the end of that cutscene is actually going to be the playable crew in this game. So very good news as well. You know, a lot of people didn't like having operators and zombies. The thing is, operators are still in the game. Like, you can choose to play as an operator, but by default, there is a canon crew that you play as. I was literally dying to be able to say that. And so the canon crew that we are going to be playing in this game consists of Weaver from Cold War, also Carver, Dr. Gray, and a new girl named Maya. We haven't really met her as far as I'm aware before, but all of these people minus Maya were the, people at Requiem, or they may have been handlers that would talk to you in the map. I mean, Carver was like the wonder weapon of one of the maps before. It's very strange, but basically, we do have a canon crew, and you can have the ability to play as operators. There are going to be more like operator voice lines that kind of like talk more about zombies, but if you really want to get the story and have interactions with the other characters, then playing as the canon crew is going to be the best way to go. I'm very excited that they're doing this. It's probably some of the best news we've gotten. Now, I'm not totally sure about this. This is just conjecture and the vibe I got, but it seems like Liberty Falls is going to be the slightly easier map, or the more welcoming one to get into zombies, and then Terminus appears to be the more difficult map, the slightly more oppressive one, more involved, a bit more complicated, but that's kind of the idea. It's almost like having the Giant and Shadows of Evil in Black Ops 3, where you had your complicated map and then you had your very chill and relaxed map. I'm not totally sure on that. That's just kind of the vibe that I got. We will have to wait and see when the game does release. But round-based zombies is back, and I could not be happier to say that. A couple of other tidbits across the modes that I want to share with you is that the campaign is going to feature another safe house. So if you remember in Black Ops 3's campaign and also Cold War, in between missions, you would go to this main central hub where you could choose to continue the next mission and do stuff like that. But as opposed to Black Ops 3, I don't think that there's going to be any, customizable classes in here. I could be wrong about that, but I do know that there's going to be a lot of lore and secrets to uncover in this new central hub. There's going to be puzzles and things to really get your hands on if you're a lore junkie, and also there is the classic evidence board from Cold War where you can choose to learn more about your enemies and maybe select different missions. So I imagine it'll probably be similar, where there are main levels and then what might be side missions and stuff like that, but we'll have to see on that. Either way, I'm very excited at this returning. Now in multiplayer, there is this mechanic called corner slicing. So think of in Ghost when you lean on a corner and you kind of peek your gun around it. Think of that, but it does it automatically and it doesn't mount to a wall. So when you're going around a corner, your gun will kind of lean to one side or another, and it's not distracting. It doesn't mess up your movement at all, but they did say that it was a cosmetic feature, and so I don't know if this actually changes your hitbox or hurtbox in game. I have no idea. That there wasn't much clarification on that, and I thought that this would be a weird system to get used to, but it's honestly not so bad. It's very subtle, it's mild, but it's something that is noticeable when you are playing the game. And then also there's this thing called intelligent movement. Now this is off by default, and I kept mine off, but basically when you're interacting with a level, jumping over stuff, sliding through stuff, you can just turn on intelligent movement and then click your stick forward, and it kind of just does all the traversing for you. Again, if you've been playing Call of Duty for a long time, you probably won't need this, but if you're brand new to the series, it might be something useful to have on to help you get used to the game. But me personally, and I imagine a lot of you guys are probably going to have it turned off by default, you absolutely don't have to have it on. And then this is a somewhat global feature across the game, I believe minus campaign. In multiplayer and zombies, you have the ability to customize your HUD. So there are different elements of the display, and you can sort of change them at your will. You can place them in different areas, or maybe change the size of the font and stuff like that. I don't know exactly how customizable it is, but there are different presets you can use if you want to put your ammo counter on the right side or in the middle, or whatever you want to do. The point is, it's customizable, and you you can place the elements of the HUD to your liking, which I think is very exciting. And the last thing I want to mention is reportedly zombies is going to be the most dynamic experience yet. And I'm not exactly sure what that means, but all I know is, Treyarch obviously got pulled off working on MW3 zombies at some point, and they went full force into this game. It's being developed for a long time. Having 2 fully loaded round-based maps at the beginning, I just think is good omen for what we're going to get for the rest of the year. I imagine it's going to follow a similar pattern to what we get on launch, and it also is one of those things where Treyarch was telling us how important it is for them to maintain a lot of the game's Black Ops identity throughout the entire year. So I'm very excited to hear all of that, and I think it's good news for all of these modes. It's shaping up to be a pretty good game, and I'm excited to play more of it as well. But yeah, I did play Black Ops 6, and I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about it, but that's pretty much it. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.